tried growing your own food, you've probably found some things work better than others. And if you haven't seen the garden success you're looking for, you're not alone. Learning to garden can be a little overwhelming at times. Each growing season, I highly recommend a simple first step. It makes all the difference in the world, and soon you'll have a successful vegetable garden that grows. I'll be showing you how in this video. You got this. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Stacey Murphy, known to many as Brooklyn's Backyard Farmer, and my mission is to help millions of people enjoy the incredibly satisfying, delicious, nourishing experience of growing healthy food. Now, I've trained thousands of growers all around the world how to get the most out of their garden. That means more fresh-picked, inexpensive, organic vegetables, even if all you have is a small growing space in less than an hour each week. My passion is to remove any obstacles so that you can take part in one of the most nourishing activities in the world. The biggest modern gardening myth is that you have to have tons of free time and be some kind of expert in order to succeed. Because the fact is, growing food can be simple, it can be easy, and it can be deeply, deeply rewarding for your body and even for your soul. I'm going to show you how to easily pack in the plants for an abundant, inexpensive harvest no matter what size garden you have. I see what works, I see where people make mistakes, and I'm here to help you avoid the pitfalls, because growing food, when you know how to do it right, like I'll be showing you in these videos, can make you self-reliant, healthy, and free. You know exactly how your food is grown, and so you have access to fresh, organic, nutrient-dense, and inexpensive food that you know is toxin-free. You have the power to nourish yourself, to get healthy, to grow your own medicine, and to live a wonderful life. Bonus points, you're doing something great for the environment too. Now, you may think that gardening is all about learning the tools, the tricks, the techniques, and there's plenty of that kind of gardening information online. Have you ever Googled how to grow a tomato? There are over 5 million entries and more every day. But here's the deal. If you don't get one simple thing done first in your garden, all that information is useless, and frankly, it can get pretty overwhelming no matter how much garden experience you have. There's one simple thing that you will never learn on most gardening websites, and it's the first step of my 7-step garden system. It's the one thing that you can't find out there because it's you. So the first simple step is to focus on you, to know what kind of gardener you are. Once you do that, you'll find everything else falls into place and plants will want to grow all around you. This first simple step that I've been talking about, knowing yourself and what you want out of your garden, is so important. You've got to know where you're going before you know how to get there, right? Now, if you were trying to get to the Grand Canyon and you didn't use the right GPS, you might end up at Disneyland. Now, it'll still be an adventure, just not the adventure you're looking for, right? So each growing season, you're going to do this exercise that we're about to do together. And I'm going to lead you through this powerful exercise that will help you create a mindset of success and pride, a mindset that will energize your garden no matter how many years experience you have, a mindset that will help you eliminate any of the unnecessary garden work so you can focus on what's important to you. This is the best shortcut I know to a successful vegetable harvest. Together, we're going to create smart, actionable goals that work for you this growing season. Now, successful growers do this a little bit different. We're going to have some fun doing this, and you're going to discover your garden superpowers, because how you feel about your garden makes all the difference in the world. So grab the download below this video, and let's get started. Okay, did I just say you have garden superpowers? I know you do, because everyone has garden superpowers, even if you've never gardened. So we're going to start by creating some concrete goals, determine how you measure your own garden success, and then we're going to see how your goals point the way to your garden superpowers. It's time to create some smart, actionable, and measurable garden goals. I'm going to list 8 of the most common goals of a vegetable garden. Everyone's definition of these goals will be different. So what I want you to do is write down how you personally would measure the success of this goal in your vegetable garden. And you want to get as specific as possible. For example, the first goal of many vegetable gardens is the harvest, and that harvest might include food, medicine, and flowers. So one of my goals personally, no matter where I live, is to grow all my greens and herbs, all my shoots, my salad mix, and my sauté greens. And if I know how much of those greens I eat in an average meal, all the better to write it down as a target. A good goal for a first-time gardener is to successfully grow 3 different types of vegetables and herbs. Maybe try a couple of leafy greens and some herbs. They're easy to grow and fast too, so then you can set another goal for yourself afterwards. And by all means, copy any of the goals that you hear in this video if you're not sure what your goals are and something I share sounds good to you. Now, maybe you want to try growing something new. You've never successfully grown a particular vegetable like carrots, and you want to enjoy your own sweet carrots this year. That would be a great goal. I've had students whose goal is to grow all of one particular vegetable for the entire year, the off-season too, like growing tomatoes for the whole year, including canning, some for salsa and for pasta sauce. So maybe you want to grow and dry all of your peppermint tea for the winter. You get the idea. Perhaps it's not about how much you harvest, but about the diversity of what you're growing. Sharon wanted a small garden where she could harvest 5 different vegetables every week, no matter how big or small. So write down your harvest goals. And don't worry if you don't know if it's possible yet or not. We'll talk more about how much you can grow in video 2. Here's the deal. A gardener is not measured by harvest alone. It's your love, attention, and gratitude for your plants that makes you a gardener. And here's what I mean. Here are 2 of my gardens. The first is Foxtrot in Brooklyn. After years of honing my garden system, I was feeding 6 families most of their vegetables off of 500 square feet. I was growing 30 to 50 pounds of produce weekly for 20 weeks while only spending 2 hours each week gardening. Holy kale, I can really pack in those harvests. It's kind of my superpower. And the second garden is my community garden here in San Diego. When I arrived, there were 2 abandoned garden boxes here in the yard. Nobody had been able to get anything to grow here. They've given up all hope. It was such a pleasure to work with my housemates and transform all those obstacles like sandy soil into a lush green garden. And now it makes me smile when I watch my community confidently wander outside to harvest vegetables and herbs for their meals from a garden that they had all but given up on. Now, which garden do you think I am more proud of? It's a trick question. I'm 100% committed to both of them, and each one makes me proud in a different way. These gardens represent 2 different times in my life, and my values were different. So guess what? My gardens were radically different. So while harvest is one way to measure your garden success, it's obviously not the only way. I would call both of these gardens successful, even though they produce radically different amounts of food. So now that you've written your harvest goals down, I want you to rate how important this goal is to you. Without hesitation, just go with your gut. Rate the goal's overall importance on a scale of 1 to 5. Now we're about to rate 7 more categories. So I would suggest thinking about rating each topic the same way. For example, a 5 for me in importance would mean that I wouldn't feel like my garden was successful if I didn't get that result because it was that important to me. A 3 might mean that it's important, but I'm not going to stress about it. And a 0 or a 1 might mean that it would be nice, but I'm not even considering it for now. Okay, so let's define and rate the other goals. We'll go clockwise around this table. How important is it to you to feel like your garden is having a positive impact on your environment? And there's no right or wrong here. Nobody's checking your answers. So be totally honest with yourself. Do you want your garden to build soil? Do you want to create pollinator habitat? Your garden doesn't have to be about saving the earth, but it probably already is a force for good in this world. Write down your measure of success and rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. Next up, how important is it to you that your gardening includes some physical activity for yourself? Are you excited to get out there and move, or do you want as little physical work as possible? So define this goal and then rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. How important is it to you that your garden is a place of learning? Maybe you want your garden to be a place for your experimentation, or maybe you want your garden to be a place where you're teaching others. Maybe both. Write down what education means to you and decide how important that is on a scale of 1 to 5. You may even have specific learning goals. Write those down. All right, health and wellness. You might want the peace of mind knowing what's in your food or knowing that your food is nutrient-rich. Perhaps you're using your garden to ward off chronic disease. Kale a day keeps the doctor away, right? So write down what health and wellness mean to you. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. How about feeling connected to nature? You're going to experience moments of sheer wonder and curiosity in your garden as you get to know the life cycle of your plants and hundreds of insects and fungi. How important is that connection to nature on a scale of 1 to 5? Similar, but a little different. How about enjoyment? In the garden, we typically talk a lot about all the things we do, but what about just being in your garden and enjoying it? How specifically would you enjoy time in your garden, and how important is that on a scale of 1 to 5? And lastly, beauty. Beauty, of course, is in the eye of the beholder. So what does it mean to you, and how important is that? Now, these are the most common 8 goals I have found. If you have something that's not listed here that's important to you, make sure you write it down as well. So now you have this diagram with what looks like 8 slices of pie. What does it all mean? Well, here's what I want you to do. Identify which 3 pieces of your pie rank as the highest importance for you, which 3 have the highest rankings. Those are your priorities. So go ahead and star the top 3, and if you have a tie, go with your gut. These are the 3 areas you want to look at what you wrote. Make sure that you have created smart, actionable, and measurable goals. I like to say that goals should be a little risky and that you're not exactly sure how you're going to make it happen. That means it's a stretch goal and you're going to be excited to achieve it. And even though the growing season gives you a time frame, You want to make sure that your goal includes a more specific time frame if you can achieve that goal sooner than just the end of the growing season. Here's the cool part. For all the goals you just wrote down, with the exception of your harvest, the size of your actual garden probably doesn't matter. And it probably doesn't matter if you have an indoor or an outdoor garden either. You might accomplish your dream garden with just a couple of trays indoors and a couple small planting beds outside, maybe a container garden on your deck. Phew, what a relief, right? Your vegetable and herb garden can be super simple. It's so easy to get lost in all the garden information online because you feel like you have to do everything, like you have to do all the garden techniques at once, that you have to try everything, to feel like you have to get everything just right in order to have a successful garden. But that's just not the case. So when you're designing your garden each year, this is the first step to help you ensure you're prioritizing your most important goals. This is a huge shortcut to a successful vegetable and herb garden, to do what's important to you and not worry about the rest. There's a lot of garden stuff that could distract you if you don't know what you really want. But if you master this first step, you can keep it simple. Speaking of simple, sometimes when I set a lot of goals like this, I start to wonder if I can really accomplish them all. What helps me keep things simple is remembering why each goal is important to me and how I want to feel when I do accomplish that goal. You may have already written some of that into your goals, and that's great. So there's a page in the ebook below where you can dive deeper into your top 3 goals, and I invite you to write down why each goal is important to you. When you tap into why, everything feels easier. Have you ever noticed that? Now, if you're really a fan of simple, I've got one big tip for you. Fun is better than perfect. So yes, shoot for your goals, and remember to enjoy the ride. Now, are you ready to take this to the next level? We're going to get a little silly here. Have you ever noticed that when you decide to do something and you do it really well, you feel proud? I'm always so proud when people see how little space and effort it takes for me to grow all my greens. When people ask me how I do this, I find myself standing upright, kind of like a superhero pose. And my students noticed how I was standing and told me that my superpower was packing tons of vegetable plants into small spaces. And to this day, I find myself thinking, dum da da da, as I harvest my greens. It's a celebration and a recognition that I'm my own garden hero. Sometimes I think I should garden in a cape. And this is the mindset I've noticed with successful gardeners. They take a moment to celebrate. They take a moment to celebrate themselves. And here's what successful vegetable gardeners do differently. They celebrate even when they don't know what they're doing. When you're gardening and working with nature, there are a lot of things that are out of your control. The one thing that is always within your control is how you feel about your garden. This is so important. Get ready to write this down. You can always be proud of your garden, even when it's not perfect, even when things are falling apart. This is the reverse of what most people think. They think they have to have a successful garden first, and then they will be proud. But in my experience, it's the exact opposite. Garden pride actually comes first. So to cultivate an attitude of pride, I like to think of myself as a garden superhero in training. Makes me giggle. It might be helpful for you too. Remember that scene in Spider-Man where he accidentally shoots a spider web out of his hand and surprises himself? Look for those moments in your garden where you surprise yourself or nature surprises you and celebrate. That's what garden pride is all about. Now, you don't have to yell, dum da da da, every time you harvest like I do, but be as weird as you want with your garden. Create a garden routine that makes you smile, makes you laugh, makes you feel good. Something that makes you jump out of bed in the morning. Because then you will keep coming back for more. And that's what makes a successful vegetable garden. The shortcut is you having fun. That's why I say the best fertilizer for your vegetable garden is you, your gratitude and your celebration of life. Even when things aren't going exactly as planned, fun is always better than perfect. Here's how you can have some fun discovering and showing off your garden superpowers. Superpowers are typically born out of your values. So we're going to take a look at the 8 most common garden values again from earlier in this video, and now amplify those values, turn them up to imagine your potential garden hero personality. So for example, meet Carolyn, one of my students in Seattle. She's obviously part garden chef superhero because she ripped out the bushes in her small front yard and planted a vegetable garden that started producing measurable food in just 40 days. Her superpower is packing in those vegetable harvests. Now meet Betty, one of my students in Texas. She's part garden ninja superhero. After breaking her pelvis twice, she got the help she needed to raise her garden bed up onto pallets. So her superpower is stealth gardening, growing food without having to bend down. Remember, you can be whatever type of garden hero you want. Download my ebook below and read all 8 descriptions. Try them on for size. And each year, as your garden goals change, you can try different superpowers on for size as well. Yes, goals are powerful to help us focus on what we want. And in the process, remember to embrace yourself as a garden hero, because garden pride leads to success, not the other way around. And fun is always better than perfect in the garden. After watching this video, I hope you are inspired to grow your best harvest yet, and that you have some clear garden goals for the year. If you were to take away just one thing from this video, I would want it to be that you are the best fertilizer for a successful vegetable garden. Why you garden is way more important than any garden technique. Your plants can feel your love, your attention, your gratitude, and your commitment 100%. Now, I know you might be wondering, are your goals realistic? And I get it, you want to know what to expect. For example, how much space do you need to grow your vegetables for the growing season? In the next video, you're going to find out how much food you can grow in small spaces and how to double your yield in half the space. Within the next couple of days, I'll be sending out an email. Keep an eye out for that email, and if you don't see it, just come on back here. We'll be waiting for you, and there'll be a link for this video that will become available. Right now, I want to know more about you. So what are some of your SMART goals this year for your vegetable garden, and what do you want to create with your newfound garden superpowers? And please share this link with any garden heroes you know who might benefit from this workshop series. When I became a backyard farmer, people were really skeptical. They would ask, can you really grow a lot of food in such small spaces? I mean, Brooklyn is one of the densest cities in the United States. And without the right system, I would have failed. So I worked really hard to hone my system. And at the end of this complimentary workshop series, I'll be inviting you to take a look at my online course where I teach that system in more detail. Thousands of people from 6 different continents have put that system to work for them. It's amazing. If I were to imagine the life I lead now 10 years ago, I wouldn't believe it. It's paradise, an unlimited supply of greens, garlic, and basil, a rainbow of tomatoes, fresh sweet carrots in the early morning dew, sharing nutrient-rich meals with neighbors fresh from the garden. This truly is paradise. You know, it just doesn't get better than this. And I would love this for you too. So post your comment below, and I'll see you on the next video.
Okay, how do we get out of that? Hello?